Hello teachers. You might be wondering what's the purpose of this video. The main thing that I want to talk to you about in this video is about note-taking and giving feedback. So these past few weeks I've been attending several classes, and I've also read some notes that teachers have given to the students. And I have some suggestions that I want to give to you. First of all, this is not to judge how you teach, but I hope that you can see this as just a reminder. Or maybe you can see this as a tool, a new tool that you can use to improve what you've been doing all this time. Because I believe that although we are teachers, sometimes we also need to learn. That's why I hope that we can learn together. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is what should you include in your feedback? Different teachers may give different types of feedback. But while you're teaching a class in Improve English course, I want you to include these three things in your feedback. First, pronunciation. Teach them how to pronounce a word correctly and try to learn the symbols of pronunciation, especially sounds like or a, or sounds like o and o. These are sounds that a lot of people pronounce wrongly. So, for example, they might pronounce this word as experience. Give them correction and tell them that the pronunciation is experience. And not only tell them, write it down. Or maybe they might pronounce this word as iron. Tell them that it's wrong. And give them the right pronunciation, which is iron. That's why this word is called Iron Man, not Iron Man. Or maybe a commonly mispronounced word. This word, a lot of people pronounce it as develop, while the right pronunciation is develop. As you can see, I don't only teach them the sound, I also teach them the stresses. You don't have to be the master of phonetics or pronunciation, but I think as English teachers, we should be familiar with them so that we can teach our students the right pronunciation. Number 2, vocabularies or spelling. Maybe a student said, I have a lot of think. Maybe you can ask your student, maksud kamu apa? Maksudnya, saya punya banyak pikiran. Nah, kalau maksud kamu adalah pikiran, ini salah ya. Harusnya adalah, I have a lot of thoughts. Kalau think itu adalah verb atau kata kerja yang artinya berpikir. Dan thought itu adalah noun atau kata benda yang artinya pikiran. Another example. Maybe they say, I am boring. Maybe we can ask them, maksud kamu, saya bosan. Kalau saya bosan, bahasa Inggrisnya adalah I am bored. And then we can tell them, bored itu merasa bosan. Boring itu adalah membosankan. Jadi kalau kamu bilang, I am boring, ini sebenarnya adalah saya membosankan. Tapi kalau kamu mau bilang, saya bosan, harusnya adalah I am bored. Number 3, I want you to teach them about grammar structure. A common mistake. Maybe a student said, I am like coffee. And then maybe you give them correction. Bukan I am like coffee ya, tapi I like coffee. However, don't stop there. Teach them structure. Kalau present tense itu subjek ditambah dengan verb 1 ya. Jadi contohnya, saya pengen kopi. I want coffee. Bukan I am want coffee. Jane tinggal di Jakarta. Jane lives in Jakarta. Bukan Jane is live in Jakarta. The second thing that I want to talk to you about is how to give feedback effectively. So whenever I give feedbacks to my students, there are always 5 steps that I follow. Roughly, number 1 is we show their mistake. Number 2, we tell them the correction. Number 3, we explain why. Number 4, we give examples. And number 5, we give them questions. Now I noticed that a lot of teachers only do the first 2 steps. However, that is not enough. Remember this proverb. Don't give them fish, but give them a fishing rod so that they can catch their own fish. Okay, so this is my suggestion. Please follow these 5 steps. Follow these 5 steps of giving feedback, especially when you teach them grammar. For example, a student said this: "My house is more big than his house." First, we show them the wrong sentence. And then maybe we tell the student, "Hi Dina, this sentence is wrong. The correct grammar is, my house is bigger than his house." The second step is we tell them the correction. However, a lot of teachers stop there. Don't stop there. Go to the third step. Explain why. It doesn't have to be a very long, complicated explanation. But at least you need to tell them why. You can tell them, "Dina, more big is wrong. Because big is a short adjective. Short adjectives are adjectives with only one syllable. So with short adjectives, if you want to say lebih, add er. For example, big, lebih besar, bigger. Lambat, slow, lebih lambat, slower. Kecil, small, lebih kecil, smaller. However, we have long adjectives. Now with long adjectives, you use more. For example, susah, difficult, lebih susah, more difficult. Not difficulter. Cantik, beautiful, lebih cantik, more beautiful. And then we go to step 4. Give them examples. And maybe you can try using different adjectives. So Dina, for example, tangan saya lebih panjang dari tangan dia. Panjang is long, so lebih panjang is longer. So the correct answer is, my hand is longer than his hand. And then we go to step 5. We ask them questions, because you need to make sure that they understand your explanation. Okay, Dina, your turn. What is the English of this sentence? John lebih tinggi daripada saya. If Dina says, John is taller than me, it means Dina understood your explanation. Maybe you can give her a second question. Kemeja ini lebih lembut daripada kemeja itu. And then she says, this shirt is more soft than that shirt. And then you know that she doesn't understand your explanation. Or maybe she doesn't focus. Another example. Maybe your student said, she don't know you. And then you tell him, Adam, grammarnya salah ya. Harusnya adalah she doesn't know you. Nah, Adam ingat kan kalau kemarin udah dijelasin tentang present tense. Kalau kita pakai verb, structure-nya adalah subject ditambah verb 1. Kalau subjeknya I, you, we, they, kita pakai verb 1 biasa aja. Tapi kalau subjeknya he, she, it, verb-nya ditambah dengan s. Nah, kalau kalimat negatifnya, kita gunakan don't atau doesn't. Sama, kalau subjeknya I, you, we, they, kita pakai don't ditambah verb 1. Kalau subjeknya he, she, it, kita gunakan doesn't dan verb 1-nya juga biasa aja. Jadi contohnya Adam, saya suka kopi, I like coffee. Saya enggak suka kopi, I don't like coffee. Jane tinggal di Jakarta, Jane lives in Jakarta. Dan kalimat negatifnya, Jane tidak tinggal di Jakarta, Jane doesn't live in Jakarta. Karena Jane adalah she. Oke, contoh Adam, kalimat ini gimana? Kamu bangun jam 7. Maybe Adam says, you wake up at 7. Kalau kalimat negatifnya gimana? Kamu tidak bangun jam 7. And then he says, you don't wake up at 7. Okay, that's correct. Okay, Adam, kalimat berikutnya. Bobby makan nasi. Adam says, Bobby eats rice. Okay, kalau kalimat negatifnya, Bobby tidak makan nasi. If Adam says, Bobby doesn't eat rice, that means he understood your explanation. But if he says, Bobby don't eat rice, then that means he doesn't understand your explanation and you have to repeat it. Or at least you have to remind him. Okay, so those are some of the things that I always apply in my teaching. In some of my notes, I always give them structure, and I always give them examples. Remember, teachers, that you don't have to give them 10 things, but the next meeting, they forget about everything. I would prefer it if you can give them 1 or 2 things, 1 or 2 grammar structure, but you do it properly, you explain it clearly, you give them examples, and you make sure that they understand it properly. That way, you don't only give them fish, but you give them the fishing pole. So next time, maybe Adam wants to say, istri saya nggak suka seafood. And he wants to say, my wife don't like seafood. He will remember, guru saya kan bilang kalau subjeknya he, she, it, pakai doesn't. So, my wife doesn't like seafood. Okay, so to summarize everything, in the feedback note, please include these 3 things: pronunciation, vocabulary or spelling, and grammar. And then when you explain grammar, these are the steps that you should take. Number 1, show them their mistake, and then give correction. Number 3, explain why. And then number 4, give examples. And number 5, to make sure that they understand you, give them questions. So, if you have watched this video until the end, please summarize the video and answer these 2 questions. What should we include in our feedback note? And number 2, when you give them grammar correction, what are the 5 steps that you need to do?